All right, good afternoon. You're attending a Baltimore City Ethics Board meeting for Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Time is now 2:37, and we are here at a virtual meeting via Microsoft Teams. My name is Steve Fogelman. I'm the chair. Are there any updates? I have no updates, so we'll move into our statement concerning May's administrative session. Per the Open Meetings Act, the board discloses that it adjourned its virtual open meeting on May 11th, 2022 to enter into an administrative session at approximately 2:55 p.m. All board members were present and the members discussed administrative matters, including complaints. Likewise, the board may need to close some or all of this meeting today to preserve the confidentiality mandated by the Ethics Code or is otherwise authorized by the State Open Meetings Act. Likewise, upon adjournment of today's open session, the board may reconvene for an administrative discussion to discuss non-public administrative functions of the board. All right, that having been said, we'll take a look at the May 11th, 2022 public meeting minutes. Are there any comments, corrections, or suggested edits?
I have one correction. It would be the number of charitable governmental gift solicitation waivers. The number of active waivers should have been 10. I had said 9, so that's my only correction.
All right, thank you. All in favor of approving the May 11, 2022 public minutes with corrections by Mara Ford, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, 3-0. The minutes are approved. It's now time for the ethics officers update.
All right, so I will present the metrics for this meeting. The ethics training in April, 23 people completed the automated training. That's in addition to 23 people who attended a live training with the DGS. In May, 132 people completed the training, and there's still some employees enrolled, so that number will go up slightly. For June and July, the training on the automated website it will end as of June 19th, I believe. So for the June and July registrants, we will be providing the training on our website. So we have 45 people in June and 21 in July. So the total number of attendees this fiscal year is 852. Help desk, we received 273 help desk requests in May. The majority of those were regarding financial disclosures, so 206. We did receive 49 ethics inquiries, a request for substantive ethics guidance. That's the highest number ever. So it was a very busy month for Jeff, especially. Yeah. And then the rest, we had 7 questions about ethics trainings, 4 admin questions, 5 about gift solicitations. The others were a bit lower, the other categories. And our total is 1,443 as of the end of May. So we're really close to our number from last year as well. For complaints, we have 1 new complaint, which we will discuss during the administrative session. And then we have 3 open complaints, and that brings our total to 13. We have a few pending opinions, which we'll also discuss during our administrative meeting. But our total for this fiscal year is 8 advisory opinions. Financial disclosures, on May 23rd, we sent out the 15-day late notice to 236 outstanding filers. So that was about 2 weeks ago. We also sent a copy of that notice to their agencies and boards and to the director of the Department of Human Resources and to the city solicitor. Since then, that number's come down. A lot of people have filed, and also a decent number of those individuals are no longer with the city. So I had to update our records. And then on Monday, we're required to refer outstanding filers to the Inspector General's office. So we'll be doing a 60-day late notice, which I'll discuss with Isabel. Just all of our outstanding filers at that point. For gift solicitations, we have 4 applications for gift solicitation waivers today, and Ann Coy is on the line, and she'll be able to provide some additional information about those applications. We also, this month, we received 2 final reports, and we're waiting for some supplemental information for both of those, and 1 interim report, and we have 11 active campaigns. Those are all of the metrics.
Very nicely done.
Mara, do we have a number outstanding right now of the disclosures?
I'll have an updated number on Friday. I'm getting a report from BCIT, but I believe I estimate it's about 100, hopefully a little bit less. I think we halved our number from the 15-day late notice, but I can let you know Friday.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mara. All right, it looks like it's time to move on to our
Actually, Mr.
gift
Chairperson,
solicitation waivers, right?
before
I'm
you
sorry, I
do,
just
sir,
lost this.
before you do, I have a very,
Yeah.
very brief comment to make, if I may.
Sure.
The report rendered by our esteemed ethics officer was very clear and very heartening. I mean, it says it's a powerful statement about the city of Baltimore self-governing and self-monitoring and attempting to do the right thing and adhere to the ethics code that is aimed at protecting the integrity of governmental operations. But the problem is, I think that that report was in effect, as you call it, preaching to the choir, so to speak. I mean, it went to the ethics board members and wonderfully received, I believe. But I think that another audience needs to hear that report. And that audience is one that can be accessed by the Baltimore Sun paper. And I think that an interview should be arranged with the outgoing executive director, with a side interview, possibly with our esteemed Inspector General, but also with our ethics officer, describing, and also possibly with our chairperson, describing what the ethics board does, the metrics that were discussed, or other metrics that would be relevant of interest to the public, and having the public at large knowing about that, what we're doing, I think would be a very, very good thing during these troubling times. I think Baltimore needs as many shots of penicillin and what do you give adrenaline as possible. And I think that an article like that would be would provide that. And I mentioned all four personalities, because the article should be wide-reaching and comprehensive and touch on the icons who are and luminaries who are very involved with the process. And some mere mention might be made of the other members of the ethics board, but certainly, the luminaries should be mentioned and praised for the work that they're doing. And but the reporter is the one who will make the decision about how praise will be given and how, when he uses the heavy ink versus the light ink. I'm taking longer than I want because we've got a guest. I'm so sorry, but do you get the idea?
And Arnold, I'll quickly say,
do.
I think your request is timely because the law requires the board to put out an annual report by September, and that will include all of the metrics for the fiscal year. And last year, that did coincide with a couple of media coverage. A couple of outlets covered at least that report, and I think Steve and I potentially had been interviewed. So I think that we can, with the board and board staff, can think through what makes sense in timing with that annual report, because I think that's the most meaningful metric, is comparing it fiscal year to fiscal year.
Well, in truth, sir, I think I defer to your wisdom and your experience, but I want to highlight that I did say the Baltimore Sun as opposed to a TV station or the other two or three publications that possibilities. I think the Sun is the more generally popular consumed publication. And secondly, though I think the metrics are important, I think the existence of the board, the ethos of the board is very important. particularly during a time when there is concerns about our who's doing what and why. I'll just leave it at that as a general live statement. So that to say, Jeff, that we don't necessarily have to wait until September. This is June. Let's get this done. I'm thinking, because this does not stop another publication from doing a similar article in September or October because of your brilliance.
We can try to I like the idea you said about the monthly, almost like an ethics checkup. Could do it every quarter, just so people know that more and more people are joining. It becomes, like you said, a more citywide type endeavor and how it's moving forward. I'll be happy to reach out to, now we have also the Baltimore Sun, but we also have the Baltimore Banner, where a lot of reporters are trying to get the big story, and there's really never been an in-depth story about the ethics board and who's on it, the great people, and all the work you've done. Because yes, there was one report that kind of woke people up, but you all have accomplished so much in such a short time that I completely agree with you. It's due.
Thank you
very much.
How could we not under your leadership, madam?
You're the best. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our charitable gift solicitation waivers. First one is Healing City Baltimore out of Councilmember Cohen's office. They all have to go to BOE. Got Healing City Baltimore Summit and neighborhood events, Healing City staffing and peer recovery specialists and agencies. Melody, what can you tell us about this beyond the materials that were provided? I'm sorry, Mara. Melody's not with us today.
Sure. So just to clarify, so Healing City has had a gift solicitation waiver for the past few years. And basically, the way that I understand it is Healing City is growing substantially, and now there's different initiatives. So you'll see that there's 3 different parts. There's the Healing City Summit and events, the staffing, and as well as the peer, I believe it's peer, I can't remember what it's called. It's providing training in agencies.
Right.
They're all under the same project. They're all Healing City, and they all go to the same fiscal sponsor. However, the funds and donations are solicited separately and are almost accounted for separately. So that is kind of that, like a package. So Anne and actually Maggie just joined as well. Could you share a little bit more, explain how it works a little bit better?
Thank you.
I'd be happy to. So Healing City Baltimore is really a movement trying to elevate those in the city who are doing work related to trauma-informed care and healing work. And so the role that Healing City plays is really as a coordinator to make those connections for entities and organizations and individuals who are doing this work to leverage the work they're doing to have greater impact. And so these solicitation waivers are to fund, like Maura said, a couple different focus areas. One of those is on increasing our staffing as we are growing, having more capacity to be able to support the coordination of the work that's happening. That staffing is increasing 1 full-time position, hopefully, and then being able to pay some interns to do some work for us or with us over the year. The second solicitation is for the Healing City Summit, which we've hosted annually in February or March, depending on the year. That summit is really an opportunity to invite those practitioners, individuals, organizations to give workshops, to share about the services that they offer, to engage youth in planning what they see as a healing city and showcasing the role that young people play in Baltimore as healers and as leaders. And so that solicitation waiver is for us to be able to begin to raise funds to host that summit next February or March. historically that summit has taken between $15,000 and $25,000 to implement, to pay the youth who've been involved in planning, to have the t-shirts and the swag, and be able to contract time at Coppin and Morgan and make sure that our partners are all compensated for participating. And then the last one, the training, is training that is twofold. So there is training that is legislatively mandated by the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act, and that training has started, and we've been training the library as an agency, and we are in the process of wrapping up that training and preparing to engage Rec and Parks as our second agency to receive trauma-informed care training. We have been fortunate that the mayor has increased the budget in the Office of Youth and Trauma Services in the health department, where some of the funding for training comes from, but we would like to expand to be able to train all of the staff in Rec and Parks. And so we don't know that we will need to raise funds for that specifically, but have submitted the waiver in the event that we do need to raise funds in order to expand the training in the way that we would like to. One of the things that we've been talking about is this last cycle of training with libraries was all done virtually but live. So the whole staff would attend at one time, we would have the training, and we'd like to build out an online platform where recordings could be stored potentially, or not entirely sure what that looks like. That is part of what we'd like to raise the funds for, to have someone with expertise in that area help guide us through what an online platform could look like to be really effective in reaching, as we continue to train more agencies and try to make that a more efficient process. In partnership, though, we would also like to be able to train members of the community. So as Councilmember Cohen talks about the training that's taking place in city agencies, we often have people reach out to us and say, well, I want that training, or I want training for my community organization or my nonprofit. We want to be trauma informed. How can we have kind of parallel training to what's happening in agencies? And so we'd like to be able to raise funds to be able to support training that will happen in community as well.
And is it fair to say, at least with regard to the previous solicitation waivers, that a lot of what you just talked about was kind of covered under a broad waiver in the past, and now you've kind of split it out to be a bit more specific per waiver? Is that fair?
Well, I actually think we had submitted a training waiver previously, but we didn't need to raise any funds for it because of the way that we did the training. It was all on Zoom. The funds that were in the Youth and Trauma Services were able to cover that funding, and so we didn't need to raise any funds, essentially. And so I think we've had all three waivers historically. The training, or excuse me, I think the Healing City Summit and my role, the position, were in one. And now we've split that out as we want to grow the number of positions and just want clarity for reporting on what funding is being used for what purpose. So it's all, I think, very, very much the same, but expanded. And so because it is expanding, for clarity, we've separated them into the three different waivers.
You know, Ann, I'm Arnold Sampson. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You know, given the amount of trauma that residents and occupants of Baltimore City have experienced of late, I'm thinking that the project sounds woefully underfunded, $25,000. I'm thinking, you know, double that would be more in line with the realities of how much the city and its good people need to begin to address the damaging bad news that has occurred by virtue of the events and the social ills that events have generated. So A, I'm supportive. B, I recognize that it's probably an overstep for an ethics board member to propose more money, but I'm just letting you know that I personally think it's a great cause and that you could use a lot more money than you described. And certainly I, for one, would vote in favor of being supportive of the cause and seeking the funding that you need to do what you need to do. That last comment was just really just rambling.
Thank you very much for the support.
Sure.
Donna, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, we're going to break this up into two. You're going to talk to us next, Ms. Coy, about the public policy fellow, right?
Maggie
We're
may be
gonna-
able to speak that a little better, but
Okay.
yes, we can
That'd be
talk
great.
about the public
I think we
policy.
should probably vote on these separately. Are you okay with that, board? Okay, great. I'll move that we approve the gift solicitation waiver for Healing City, Baltimore, including summit neighborhood events, staffing, and peer recovery specialists and agencies. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Arnold. All in favor of approving the Healing City endorsement for waiver for the three organizations described above, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that's, thank you, Donna. All right, so that's approved. Thank you very much, Ms. Coy. And now I only have you, what is Maggie? Oh, that's, yeah, just Maggie. So tell us about the Lee Public Policy Fellow. Thank you.
Absolutely. And good afternoon, everybody. I am just going to pull over for a quick moment. I was trapped at another meeting that ran a little bit long, but yes, so the Lee Public Policy Fellowship, and I'm, if it's not showing up on the screen, I'm Maggie Master. I am Councilmember Cohen's Chief of Staff. Just also want to say a huge thank you to Jeff and Mara, because they have been so incredibly helpful as I've been was onboarding into this role and kind of newly navigating some of this. I just cannot thank them enough for the resources and time that they've shared.
Well, your council member has kept them very, very busy in the 5 years. I have been 6 years. I have been on this board. Let me tell you, rarely a month goes by, Maggie.
Well, I was a little embarrassed because when we were doing sort of the annual roll up, I went to look at sort of the totality of solicitation waivers across the city, and it was something I was like, oh my gosh, we're responsible for about 75% of these. Oh gosh, we're really keeping them busy. So yes, and it's allowed for such incredible work. And I think one example of that is really this Leadership for Educational Equity Public Policy Fellows. This is an opportunity where we are able to, for $25,000, receive an incredibly highly qualified candidate to work as a fellow for us for a 9-month calendar season from September until June. And they are coming typically with anywhere from 3 to, I think in the case of our most recent fellow, 10 years experience. They are typically coming from a teaching background in Baltimore City Public Schools, and many of them have gone on to get additional graduate degrees, et cetera. And they are looking to pivot from teaching or from the classroom into kind of education adjacent work, public policy that is related in some ways to addressing issues of educational equity, which is very much in line with the council member's own background, experience, and values. So it's a great fit for us. It's a real bargain in terms of the headcount of having a 9-month incredibly qualified staffer for us. And they have been really, I think, this year in particular, the right hand to much of what Anne just mentioned. This individual helped us with really run the summit, has done a lot of the work related to our trainings, and then has also done considerable and incredible work related to constituent services and to helping staff meetings and brief us on memos, et cetera, and do research. So just kind of an all hands on deck individual, and it's been great. I actually, funny enough, I was supposed to be in that role this year. The solicitation that happened last year was for me to join the role. As it turned out, I ended up taking on the chief of staff role, and we hired someone else for the fellow role. So this is particularly near and dear to my heart. But let me know if there are more specific questions that I can answer.
Yeah, I'm curious, how many fellows did the council member have in the period from September of 21 to just now to June 22?
So it would have just been the one. So it's from
Okay.
September to May, you get one person. So you really have that person for the life of effectively a school year. So it's
Right.
one individual.
Yeah, but don't you have other types of public policy fellows at
Oh,
any given time also
Yeah.
in the office? That's what I'm getting
Yep.
at.
Yep. So, and typically those individuals are receiving credit so we'll have like a SWACO intern from the Maryland School of Social Work. And also we've had an intern in the past from Morgan State University. They are typically doing a credit. I'm trying to think of the right terminology for kind of a credit swap. They have a practicum, I guess is what you might say. So they come to us as a placement.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any discussion, Donna? Arnold?
No, wonderfully presented.
No.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, thank you very much, both of you, again, for being here. Is there a motion to approve the solicitation waiver for lead public policy fellow for Councilman Cohen's office?
You said, is there a motion? You're making the motion, we second.
All right, I was going to give you a chance to. All right,
Bless you.
Arnold, we'll call that
You're
your
amazing.
motion.
That's
I'll second it. All in favor of gift solicitation waiver approval for lead public policy fellow for Council Member Cohen's office, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The motion carries 3-0. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all
Thank
so much.
you.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the work you're doing.
You
Thanks
got
a
it.
lot. And Mara and Jeff, thanks
Sure.
again. All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay, goodbye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Let's move into our bill reporting. Is that going to be Mara? You're going to tell us about the charter amendment?
Well,
Jeff,
let's
do you want to
do
take this?
let's do the first one first.
Okay.
Much less to report. Let's see here. Let me pull up my. So Council Bill 220238. Actually, let's do police accountability 0234.
Okay, yeah. The second, right.
I mean that's a big bill for a variety of reasons, but the only reason the ethics board was asked to comment was because it was making the new police accountability board members and staff required financial disclosure filers. So Steve, I think you ended up signing a brief statement saying that that's consistent with the requirement. So that one's that. And the charter amendment one, the ethics board, I guess I can give a very brief overview of why the ethics board was asked to comment. It changes the membership of the OIG's advisory board, changes how those members are picked. They're no longer elected members. There's sort of a whole process by which citizens can apply, and then the person in their council district picks someone from that application pool, and then in the end gives the ethics board chair the responsibility to kind of randomly pick 5 of 7 members from that process, and then it says 2 members from certain professional boards. And Isabel, I think you might be able to discuss some of what came in your bill report. I mean, I think there are a few issues that might be similar, overlapping. Like there were some other responsibilities for the ethics board chair, which didn't necessarily,
Right.
I think, make sense. Like, for instance, gave ethics board chair the power to remove OIG advisory board members, which didn't necessarily seem appropriate, and also gave the ethics board chair the responsibility to train those members on the workings of the IG. So, I mean, those are just some things to consider in the position the board would like to take on this bill.
Right. I think overall it's a very good bill. I think having people that I have to investigate on my board is awkward at best, and it's not good policy throughout the United States of America. In fact, when we did an evaluation, it turned out that there were only we evaluated 25 throughout the U.S. and only one other one, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico, had elected officials on the board, and there was only one, and we have 4. So it's just not consistent with best policies. But and also when it happened, nobody really paid attention to that. Everybody was voting for independence for the Inspector General. They weren't voting. They didn't realize that what that meant. I did, just for the record, I did bring it up and I said, aren't you making it go from 1 elected official to 5 elected officials overseeing me? And they said, oh, Isabel, it's just a stepping stone. We'll fix that next. But then they never met. So, but the issues that did concern me was and I'm recommending that these part actually get changed. One, that the head of that Steve, as the head of the ethics board now, would actually train the board about the Office of the Inspector General. And that doesn't make any sense, because if anybody should train the board members how the office works, it would probably be the Inspector General, because we have, we do that with other people. And I mean, I don't think the head of ethics, whether Steve or the next person, would want to or even know the nuances that go on with this office. The second thing was, like Jeff mentioned, to me, it was very concerning that the head of ethics would be part of the removal process at all. I mean, I thought it was brilliant to have the head of ethics pick the name out of what they were going to do is everybody that applies within certain districts, they just put the names out of the hat, and then they would ask the most ethical person here in the city, which is the chairman of the Board of Ethics, to pick the name out. So politics are completely removed. That made sense. But then to take the head of ethics and have him or her part of the removal process made no sense, because that puts you in a process. So we are recommending that part comes out of the law that they're recommending. And there was one other part that I thought was the training part, the removing people part, and this is more my world, but they did ask that we pick. They have people selected from either the Association of Certified Public Accountants, the Association of Inspector Generals, or the Association of CPAs, just so that there's some expertise on the board. Oh, in the Bar Association, the Maryland Bar. But then they didn't put how we picked them. So that one, I'm recommending that they clarify how personal can apply from those organizations. And that's it. I mean, other than that, I think it's a positive law. I personally think it's a nice reflection on this board that they've asked you to be included. That they've asked you to be included on it. So, did I leave anything out, Jeff?
No, I mean, I think the only real, discussion or consideration for this board are the topics where it sort of gives the board something to do. And I think you noted the pieces which were potentially problematic. So really, it's kind of up to the board to decide if it wants to sort of support the bill with those recommended, types of amendments. I mean, there does seem to be a difference between saying the ethics board chair can randomly pick something which doesn't give any discretion, doesn't really add to substantive duties, versus those other things which kind of make the chair a part of, gives the chair discretion to do something with regard to the advisory board, which I think for a variety of reasons is problematic. But anyway, those are some those are some of the things for the board to think about in the position that it wants to take.
I mean,
So this is Donna.
go ahead.
What's the why did they put in there about the board removing people, which I think is a little bizarre, and if we recommend that it's not us, how are people removed?
That's a good question, Donna. Actually, for board members, it's not stated in most of the other commissions, but usually within a board, it's self-regulated. So the board themselves would vote out other members and then ask for a replacement. So, I mean, it really, Donna, didn't make sense to me to have the ethics board become a part of that process. I very much believe that that's something that we should not recommend doing. But
Right,
I have
I'm not aware of it being stipulated on any other ones, but
right. I think they were just trying to be as detailed as possible. Apparently, Odette had she reached out to a lot of different places, and I think she was trying to take a little bit of everything. But I just think that's going way into the weeds and not a good idea. And I mean, I think it's definitely not a good idea to have the ethics board remove people. That's yeah.
And just to provide very basic way these bill report things work. One will be coming from the IG, sort of the IG's position on it. One will be coming from, the ethics board position on it. So that's sort of the discussion that we're having now. And then a variety of other agencies will be asked to comment. So, law, et cetera. So I think for your all purposes, it's simply kind of the position the board officially would like to take.
There's three of us here today. I don't particularly feel a need for the ethics board to weigh in on this. The agency. I just don't. We'll do what we're told to do. We're not legislators. Certainly, we have no objection to drawing a name out of a hat. What do you think, Donna?
well, I think we've been asked to do this before when we were under legislative affairs, and they just kind of did it for us. So if we're mentioned, we should get a say-so in it. That's a stakeholder.
Yeah, I think doing it the right way is giving you a say. Yeah.
Can Jeff draft something for us, and we can maybe review it at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Well,
because I agree with.
As long as it's clear that it's on, it's your position. I mean, I'm now having a position in law as well, so it certainly wouldn't be law's position on this. Right. Yeah.
No,
okay. I mean, I think it could be kind of, I think it could be neutral, and I think you could point out the kind of substantive things that don't make sense that we've discussed on the board side of things. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll be happy to help him too. But believe me, there's no better writer than Jeff.
Well,
we know.
You're fine. Thank you.
Me too.
So with that, again, thank you, staff. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the public session of today's meeting. No objection?
No objection.
All right.
When is our response due?
Hang on. Oh, sorry, you're talking about the bill report.
Yeah.
I do believe it's due. I have to check. I think it's due mid-June. I have it on the calendar. So we'd have to send it out over email.
Well, I think the best practice is for positions on legislation, it be done in the open. So what you could do is give your preference now for what you would like it to say, and then I think the letter can just include that. So
Okay.
All right. My preference is that we have no objection to performing ministerial tasks like getting a name out of a hat.
Right.
And as far as the others,
in
an instance and a desire to continue to maintain the highest level of independence of any city board or commission, I believe that we should absolutely not be involved in the removal of any members of the OIG advisory board. Does everybody feel the same way?
Yes, I
Honorable
do.
members?
Ditto, I guess.
All right. I
I-
mean,
I
I
agree.
think that's it's been well stated already. So I think we certainly
Okay,
would love to help. Would love to help with that side, but as far as the removal, disciplinary action, et cetera, I think that in addition to potentially attaining our independence could also we can lose our focus a little bit. That's all. Okay. All right. Thank
Yes.
you everybody for that, and you'll present as a draft letter to that effect.
Yep.
All right then. Is there any other business in the public session? None that I see.
I have a question. I have a question. How did we make out in the budget meetings, June 2nd?
Isabel, will you take that?
Yeah, I thought that Jeff actually spoke and he did a very, very good job. They were very interested in ethics this year. They were the only issue was the fact that the $300,000, they believe strongly that ethics should get the money. The concern was that the way the advisory board, the timing on presenting the budget doesn't allow anybody to tell BBMR that they're incorrect in cutting that amount of money. So I presented that the $300,000 that we needed to get that one-time enhancement was 0.015 of 1% of our $2 billion budget. So I suggested that the mayor should be able to easily find that money somewhere, and the board, the commission agreed, but now we have to. The problem is it was all submitted prior to, because BBMR submitted the negative thing prior to. So, but I did talk to Todd Carter, and he believes that they should be able to find the money somewhere in BSIT as well. So
Okay.
I'm cautiously hopeful, but
Okay.
Jeff did a great job.
Good. Okay. So our budget money's there and the enhancement is hopeful. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Without objection, we're adjourning our public session. Thank you for joining us.